Hello everyone, I do hope you're all well. I'm the introverted astrologer and today I'm back with a short video. I know many of you are interested in the fortunes of Tim Walz and so I'd promised I'd have a look. I noticed that Astrology, the big astrology website, has added his chart to their database, but still no birth time sadly. I will keep my eye on it, but if any of you come across a birth time, I'd really appreciate you letting me know. Nonetheless, there is actually a fair bit of information I can give you, going just on his aspects, and there are some things about Tim's current situation and his near future that we can pick up. And so I'll take you to the computer now, and we'll also see if there are any important transits going on for him this year. So on first glance, we have a chart that is fairly evenly spread across the different elements and modalities. There is possibly slightly more mutable placements, indicating that we have a personality that is capable of adjusting to others and blending. Mutable energy is flexible and adaptable, and these planets here are in mutable signs. The noon chart is placing Tim's moon in early Aquarius, but it could well be in the later degrees of Capricorn too. If so, we would have an equal blending of cardinal and mutable energy. Cardinal energy is very much initiatory. It works well with leadership positions, and it's much more active, ambitious, and independent. We don't have any missing elements entirely. However, if the moon is in a Capricorn degree, then Venus would be the only air sign in the chart. This is one of those charts where you'd need the birth time so that you could use the missing ascendant and the midheaven as a tiebreaker to establish the overall signature. But I think we have a decent balance of fixed, cardinal and mutable energy here. Because there isn't an ascendant, we'll start off by interpreting the Sun. We can see that the Sun is in this group of planets in Aries, and Aries energy is very pioneering and dynamic. It's very active, very restless, and Arians are of course known for pursuing the things they want very actively. We have a wide conjunct aspect between the Sun and Mars, and it's a bit wider than I would usually go. But I'm bringing this up because the Mars in this chart is very important. Not only is it strong in its own sign, but it's also in a position that we call on the bendings. This means that it squares the nodal axes. We have the North Node here, and the South Node is in early Capricorn. Mars is squaring those both, so it will probably act out in a slightly more extreme way. And of course it's also the Sun ruler, because the Sun is in Aries and Mars rules Aries. So we are picking up already a feeling of somebody who is very driven, very prone to action. This is not a person who would be given to sitting behind a desk and fiddling with a pen for too long. We have a lot of very motivated and powerful energy here. This is someone who thrives on new ideas and projects, someone very energetic and courageous. We have a couple of important things to mention about this Sun. Although it doesn't seem very well aspected, we can see quite a tight aspect between this Sun and Neptune. This aspect is called a quincunx or an inconjunct, and it does fill in a couple of gaps for me, because if you listen to people describing Walz, one of the very early things they generally say is the fact that he is a nice guy. This word nice repeatedly comes up, and I think this tight aspect has a lot to do with that. The Sun is about our consciousness, the reason why we're here. It's also our ego. And Neptune is impressionable. It's about sacrifice, compassion, sensitivity, perhaps even confusion. And because these two aren't in an easy aspect with each other, these people often have difficulty coming to grips with it in their life. The ex-British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak also had this in his chart, although in his case the Sun is in Taurus. Because Tim's Sun is in Aries, that's intrinsically a very pioneering, ambitious energy that wants to go for the things it wants. And yet it will keep having to make adjustments because Neptune is urging Tim to think of others. to be self-sacrificing, to be of service to others and to be kind to them. And so somehow our ego, as represented by the sun, keeps thinking that it has to make these adjustments for other people in order to be nice. And they can easily be taken for granted because of this need to be nice and the fact that they often give people too much benefit of the doubt. And hopefully this is something that Tim has learnt to come to grips with during his life. It most certainly will dilute that great big dollop of Aries energy that we're expecting. The sun on the midpoint of Mars and Jupiter would indicate somebody with a great deal of creative energy, very determined, with strong organisational talents, and also a firm belief around the principle of honour, of behaving honourably. And Jupiter would also be emphasising the need for fairness. Jupiter can also bring legal or religious overtones into the picture too. And while we're in this area, there is another quincunx aspect between Mars and Uranus, and it's very close. So this is somebody who can come across as being quite pressurised. They can achieve huge amounts, but they often do more than their fair share. A major lesson to be learned here is to tap into our own way and style of doing things, and not to bow to pressure or to do too much for other people. And we can pick up from having two quincunxes, which are difficult, that there are underlying insecurities in Walz, which he will have had to have come to grips with during his life. We'll move on to the moon, but we won't go into great detail here, because we can see that it will either be in late Capricorn or in Aquarius. Let's wait for a birth time to emerge before we go further into that. Suffice to say that there will be a trine with this natal Venus, regardless of what time of day Tim was born. And this trine to Venus will indicate great strength in working with other people. We tend to be peaceful and calm in our interactions. We care for the people around us, and we have great faith in their ability to succeed. So we draw people to us with such a positive attitude. And there can be this strong affinity with young people and with children. And this harmonious and attractive demeanour is genuine, it's sincere. And let's have a quick word about the Mercury and the Venus in this chart. They are in a strong position to each other because they are in mutual reception. This is because Mercury is in Taurus, which is Venus's natural home, and Venus is in Gemini, which is Mercury's natural home. So these two planets greatly bolster each other and support each other greatly during Tim's life. Even though there is no formal aspect between them, it doesn't matter. They offer each other strength and support. And that Mercury, which is pragmatic, rational, very organised, will benefit greatly from Venus's ability to communicate with great charm. It's a planet which enjoys interacting with others and is likely to have a great range of acquaintances and contacts. Venus is also the only planet which is out of bounds in the declinations, which is a separate measurement that we can look at. It shows us that Venus is important and may act in more marked and noticeable ways. This Mercury in Taurus likes to say it as it is. It's very well reasoned and practical, and it's benefiting hugely from a very close trine with Uranus, which is speeding up that slightly slower Taurus energy and bringing in this ability to have flashes of intuition. Uranus is considered to be like a higher octave of Mercury, and these two blending together so well and giving Tim a natural ability to teach, to seek out the truth, to share his knowledge, and to be broad-minded. And of course you can see with Jupiter nearby, Mercury and Jupiter are in a conjunction anyway. And this is one of those blendings of planets that we often see in the chart of natural born teachers and mentors. So we're establishing that Venus and Mercury are very important principles in Tim's life. Mars too is the dispositor of many of the planets in this chart, and so it is as important. These planets will play a strong role in life. We can also see some of the same generational placements that are shared with Kamala because of their similarity in age. So we have that Pluto-Uranus conjunction, which can be very much occupied with social reform and betterment. This is creating some tension by opposition across the chart, which largely speaking is being channeled through that Venus and that Mercury, which form strong links with the opposition. This is just a quick look at his chart, so what we'll do now is move on and consider any transits or progressions that we can pick up. Let's start by considering the transits that we can see Tim is under this year. We can be certain that Jupiter is forming a sextile aspect with his Sun this year. This is a similar transit to the one that J.D. Vance will be having this year too. It isn't in close orb at the time of the election, but it does bring in that optimism, the ability to draw good things in life towards us, to feel happy and relaxed. And this transit actually starts this month, in August. Saturn has already initiated an opposition transit to that natal Pluto. This is very similar to some of the transits that Kamala is experiencing this year because of their closeness in age. I do need to alert you that this Saturn opposing Pluto transit will be very much in orb to the degree this November. What could this mean? Challenges can come into our life which draw heavily on our resources. Issues of personal power can come up. The challenges that do come in can draw on some quite deep-seated fears and insecurities. That power dynamic represented by Pluto can sometimes mean that we have to release control or power. This isn't an easy transit, but often the issues that are being raised or made clear come with the first contact of Saturn. And in this case, it's something which will have happened a few months ago in March. The issues won't be out of the way until the transit is completed, but this transit isn't a deal breaker in itself. We do need that birth time though to establish the ascendant and see whether we have some stronger transits going on that will bolster Tim's position. We can also see that transiting Saturn will have begun a trine aspect with Walz natal Neptune. This is very much a transit where we can take concrete steps to bring a spiritual vision potentially, or simply a personal dream, into reality. And so we need to consider that too. Now, by November, the true node will be in the position of around 6 degrees of Aries. And so it's going to be in the area of Tim's natal Mars. I'm not too concerned about this because I think it's going to bring in a lot of energy. And we can also see that Eberton's basic description of Mars on the node would indicate collaboration and cooperation, team spirit, etc. Because that north node will be around 5 degrees of Aries, this means it's also going to square its own natal position. Sometimes at the times of square opposition, conjunction, we can see, looking back, that chapters of life were opening or closing. We can sometimes pick out pivotal turns in life. And so I think we'll need to cover this one in greater detail once that birth time comes to light. Now, the outer planets of Neptune and Pluto don't appear to be doing too much at the moment, although we do need to be alert that Pluto could potentially be in the area of that natal moon. We won't say too much about this until we know more, and I have ruled out any potential eclipse contacts being made this September or October. That's good news because this is a slightly more stressful eclipse energy, and we can rule out any contact with Tim's personal planets within a couple of degrees of orb. Now, we are expecting some issues with Mars around election time. We know that transiting Mars is going to make an opposition aspect with Pluto, and that it will be a very close opposition around election time. Now, in November, Mars will be transiting through the early degrees of Leo very slowly before it turns retrograde in December. So in this time when it is travelling through late Cancer, there is a potential that it will be opposing Tim's natal moon. We just can't be sure. We can be sure, however, that transiting Mars is going to form a square aspect with Tim's natal Jupiter in the few days leading up to the election. I don't find this particularly concerning because this is a transit which works off a great deal of energy, courage, assertiveness. There's just that need to be on guard against impulsivity. But those final few days will be an extremely busy time, and so that extra energy is appropriate to the situation. And so we'll have a quick look at the progressed planets now. These are placed around the outside of Tim's birth chart, and they are the green glyphs that you can see. Most of these won't be exactly accurate, but they will be in the area of, and so it's giving us a ballpark to go with. We can see that the Sun will be somewhere between 15 and 16 degrees of Gemini, and this means that it could possibly be entering into a square with that natal Chiron. It's probably still around the outer edge of that 1 degree orb that I would use. And so if the Democrats are successful, this could point to a period in Tim's first year of being VP, where there is a learning curve around his sense of self. Potentially insecurities will come to light around the issues of shining in our own light. Any personal inadequacies will come to light now and need to be dealt with. This progressed moon is moving through the sign of Aries now, regardless of what time of day Tim was born. So this is a greatly pioneering, enthusiastic, dynamic background energy which will suit him perfectly for this point in his life. We can also make out that that progressed Jupiter, which is around 12 degrees and 54 minutes of Taurus, is still within a trine aspect of that natal Pluto. Its power will be diminishing the further away it moves, but it is still in orb. And this is a highly fortuitous coupling because it tells us of an increase in our personal power. We have this intense need to grow, to change and to succeed. Progressed Jupiter moves very slowly, and so this will have been something that's been active for quite a few of Tim's previous years too, which will have been marked by a steady increase in power and growth. We can also see that progressed Venus is in the area of Tim's North Node, and so those Venusian topics of friendships, relationships, and possibly money will all be more prominent and relevant at this point in Tim's life too. I did also take a quick look at the solar arc aspects. These are the planets placed outside the birth chart in blue. They have all been moved 1 degree for every year of Tim's life and are a very good method of prediction where you know the proper birth time. I wondered if any may be coming close to orb during this time, and the most likely ones were Venus and Chiron, and also Neptune and Saturn, so I'll put a brief description of those up on the screen. There may well be more that comes to light with the exact birth time. I did also go back in time by 60 years to have a look at Tim's converse progressions. I won't bring up the chart in this video, but it's looking very possible that there is an ongoing sextile aspect being made between Tim's converse progressed Sun and his converse progressed Jupiter. And so this would tell us that Tim's internal landscape is one of gentle growth, self-betterment and hope. There's nothing that I've seen during this exercise that would indicate failure, and there are quite a few positive contacts. And so let's hope a birth time comes to light soon. So I would be expecting a candidate who would behave with honour, integrity and good manners during this campaigning period. And so in my opinion, he will be a great asset to Kamala. I'm very aware from some of your comments quite how worried people in the States are. I do feel for you, and I know here in the UK we have also been experiencing some upsetting riots from the far right. These seem to be quite divisive times with very strong opinions on either side. So please do take very good care of yourselves. God bless you and your families and keep you safe.